Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching our on-demand Pivot webinar, A Conversation with Audubon Companies. My name is Stacy, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Pivot. Today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Pivot and introduce you to our speakers. Pivot has curated a massive database of land, environmental, parcel, and socioeconomic data, and we make that data easy to access, analyze, and share through our delivery platform. We work with organizations like Audubon Companies and large energy operators to enable site assessments and routing analysis when planning large energy projects such as new oil and gas pipelines. Today, we have an esteemed panel joining us. We're talking with Steve King, Transmission Pipeline Director, and Clarence Lamb, Project Director from Audubon. We'll also be chatting with Liz Dennett, Senior Partner Solutions Architect from Amazon Web Services. We'll hear from Liz first, as she'll talk through how Pivot's architecture is powered by AWS, enabling speed and security. Our AWS partnership also allows companies like Audubon to continue to have access to critical data without needing to hit on-premise servers, contact individual data agencies that may have limited staff right now, and continue to collaborate with clients remotely. Then we'll jump into a Q&A format with Rich Henry, our Director of Professional Services, and the guys at Audubon. We'll understand how they use the platform and how it delivers value to their clients in the energy sector. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Liz.
Hi, I'm Liz, and I'm a Senior Partner Solutions Architect with AWS. My job is to help partners like Pivot build and launch solutions on the AWS cloud. Now, I'm a geologist by background, but I'm really excited to be here today. So Pivot is an advanced technology partner in the AWS Partner Network, or the APN. Broadly, the APN is a global program focused on helping APN partners build successful AWS-based solutions by providing business, technical, marketing, and additional go-to-market support. Pivot has achieved the highest tier available for technology partners, which is advanced tier. This recognizes their ongoing commitment to delivering successful software implementations to customers and clients on the AWS cloud. I'm frequently asked about how the APN works and how partners like Pivot and customers like Audubon are able to continuously develop and pioneer solutions that are secure and efficient and really highly adaptable. Briefly, I'm going to talk about some of the key reasons. So the first is security. Security is always going to be AWS's top priority. And that shared responsibility with partners like Pivot is crucial to delivering solutions that always put security first. The second is agility. So with AWS, Pivot can quickly spin up the resources that they need, deploying hundreds or even thousands of servers if they need them in minutes. This means Pivot can quickly develop and roll out new applications, ultimately helping them to meet their customers' needs. The third big thing here is elasticity. Customers used to have to over-provision to make sure they had enough capacity to handle all of their business operations at the peak level of activity. Now, customers and partners like Pivot can provision the exact amount of resources that they actually need, knowing they can scale those up or down along with the needs of the business, which can help to improve performance and cost efficiency. And finally, the speed of innovation. So with AWS, Pivot can innovate faster because they can focus all of their IT resources and time on developing applications that differentiate their business and ultimately transform the customer experience, like you're going to hear about here. Instead of spending that time with all the undifferentiated heavy lifting of managing infrastructure and data centers. This is a value add all around, and Pivot and their customers can work together not only to create features and product that meet the needs of today, but also optimize for cost, which is key in today's environment and setting the stage for tomorrow. So together, this framework of our partnership between AWS and Pivot helps to develop agile solutions that nimbly meet the customer's needs while leveraging AWS's pace of innovations to also optimize for cost and use cases. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Rich to start on our questions.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Stacy. Before we get started, Clarence and Steve, I just want to thank you for taking time to help us out with this. We really appreciate it. I also want to extend our gratitude to you all for the relationship. Pivvot is a fairly new company, and so we're really interested in getting feedback and building relationships with our customers. And you guys up to this point have been really helpful and provided a lot of guidance and suggestions on the platform. So thank you for that. So to get started, we want to talk a little bit about processes. I mean, of course, it goes without saying that you all had a life before Pivvot. We're glad that you guys have bought into the Pivvot platform, and we'd like to just hear from you all how Pivvot fits into your routing process today.
Sure, Rich. One of the things that we've successfully implemented in our processes is the ability to grab massive amounts of data and quickly provide answers for basically everything that happens in between the beginning and the end of a proposed pipeline. In our previous existence, spent a lot of time downloading data, storing it on our servers, making sure that it all existed in the same projection plane, and then actually running individual crossing reports for each feature. And sometimes those features would run 20, 30 different features, so 20 or 30 different crossing reports. So one of the things that Pivvot really helps us with in terms of evaluating a constructible route, in particularly in a feed setting, is to facilitate a rapid access to data. Since Pivvot aggregates all of this data in their environment, I don't have to do a lot to store data in my environment. And so on screen right now, we have a route that I drew, and I exported that route to a shapefile and then imported it into Pivvot, as you can see here, and was able to run reports on it quickly. And in terms of time savings, I might spend a week and curating it. And in this situation, I can do that. I can run the reports on the data, and then I can view those reports in a live setting and share those reports over the internet with my team members and coworkers. And so if we go down to a detail say wetlands, for instance, I not only can see the data about the wetland going all the way across. This is data from the National Wetlands Inventory gathered by the USGS. I see a bar chart of the quantities of emergent wetlands, riverine wetlands, and others. And not only that, I can also zoom to an individual wetland on the map itself. And so it provides an extremely powerful tool for us to share our data and to view it with our team members and colleagues. And it does it in such a way that it's significantly faster than anything that we've done before. Anyway, so any other questions, Rich?
Yeah, one just sort of popped up in my mind. So, we're just trying to get a sense of some time savings here, and I think that you may have mentioned it, but let's say, for example, you're working on a pipeline project that's 75 miles in length, and to keep it simple, let's just say that it's in a single county. Mm-hmm. Are we talking about hours or days or weeks when it comes to aggregating that data, bringing it down into your environment, the post-processing in order to get it into a usable format?
Mm-hmm. Depending on the congestion of the area, I worked on lines in and around Houston, for instance, and spent weeks getting data together because of the fact that it's so congested, and you're going through corridors and you're looking for information regarding all the pipeline owners in those corridors, or even if it's just going out through the middle of nowhere, say out in West Texas or eastern New Mexico, you still have a lot of challenges to face in terms of gaining access to the data. Some of it's just not available. So having this all in one place really does help. And in that example, I would say probably a 75-mile pipeline could very well take a week to gather the data alone and get everything in ship shape to be able to run your analysis on it.
Any chance you remember how long it took you to run that analysis inside Pivvot?
Well, that's the secret sauce, man. In developing the route and running Pivot, I would say that it probably took me less than half a day.
Okay, sweet. Thanks, Clarence.
Yeah.
So let's, it goes without saying that there are, changing demands, changing objectives, business needs when it comes to a project. And I'm just wondering how Pivot can help in those situations.
In this situation for us, let's, in terms of looking at a new pipeline or a new feed study, one of the things is we'll have to run multiple iterations of it. And so it allows us to run multiple iterations of the pipeline in that environment and see what's changed. And then the objectives of the project can change as well.
Okay, Clarence, thanks. Let's go ahead and tee up the next question. So at this point, we have been talking fairly high level about how the Pivot platform is supporting the actual routing as well as some of the reporting. What I'd like to do now is dive a little bit deeper and talk about some use cases that are coming afterwards, after the routing has been completed. And when I think about this question, really what comes to mind is addressing permits and also building material. So Clarence, if you could help us get started here and just talk about how the Pivot platform supports some of the permitting requirements around routing.
So we ran the Aware tool to show roads, rivers, and wetlands for a current pipeline project. These are the features that are most often associated with permitting, and this provides a very quick view into the permits, the number of permits, and the number of crossings that you're going to have on any given pipeline. This also determines the construction methods behind it. And so in this instance, we're looking at transportation crossings, and this just happens to be roads, railroads, private roads, things like that. And the other nice thing included in the system is the ability to map individual records. And so I can actually go in and find the location where the crossing occurs. So once I've aggregated all of that data and completed the reports, I can share the reports with Steve King in an Excel format and just email them back and forth. And Steve, what effect does this have on the work that you're doing right now?
Sure, Clarence. When we receive the data from you on the crossing reports, it's directly applicable to the estimating process and allows us to very quickly, in the early stages of the project, determine some of the unique materials that may have to be used, such as areas where we have to have thicker wall pipe or where we might have to have a different construction technique, all of which contributes to the overall estimate. Additionally, we're talking just about road crossings, but the other crossings that you've already mentioned, such as wetlands, also have an impact on materials such as set-on weights or concrete coated pipe. And the data that you provide out of the Aware tool, which shows us exactly where the pipe enters a wetland and where it leaves a wetland, allows us to calculate a distance and a number of set-on weights or concrete coated pipe, or any other construction techniques that may contribute to the overall cost of the project.
Thanks, Steve. All right, let's move on to the next question. We've primarily been focused on existing projects that you all have in-house. And I wondered to myself if you all have considered or maybe have actually used the Pivot platform during the proposal phase.
Sure, Rich. We've actually done this on proposals recently, and the tool allows us to, with a very limited scope from the client, take a quick look at a route and get an order of magnitude cost so that going into the proposal, we have a better idea of what types of features we're going to be crossing, what types of any special engineering, such as horizontal directional drilling, is going to be required. And it also gives us just a real quick look at any sensitive areas that might require some special permitting that we need to engage some specific team members to tackle those permitting issues.
Yeah, Steve, I totally agree with what you're saying, and performed that analysis recently, and it provided a fantastic window into being able to see what the client's looking at from their point of view, and to understand pretty much everything that's on the ground that we're going to have to deal with going into a new project.
That's great, y'all. Thank you. Okay, so the next question. A couple of months ago, we added the property parcels for the entire U.S., and we are super excited about this piece of information being on our platform. We've seen a lot of excitement from our customers. I'm wondering if one of y'all can share how Audubon is leveraging this information today.
Sure, Rich. The parcel data that is now available, it saves us the step of where we previously had to approach county by county, whether it was sometimes you had to pay for that data as a separate item. Sometimes you could go online and find some publicly available data. So now we would have to take that and manually overlay that onto the pipeline route through our analysis. And now that data is readily available within the tool, it saves us several steps and quite a bit of time of manually overlaying that property mosaic onto the route. And this comes in to play all throughout the estimating process when we're trying to evaluate the cost of permanent right-of-way as well as temporary workspace. And I think Clarence can talk a little bit more about the process of calculating those impacts.
Yeah, so again, it comes down to the data, and one of the things that we did a significant amount of, even on a recent project before we had this tool, and this is not a long time ago, this is several months ago, we had a pipeline that crossed through 4 counties in Texas, and I was required or requested to have county data available for the parcels of the landowners in those 4 counties. And so in order to do that, I actually had to go to each county office, and 2 of them gave the data away for free, and one gave it to me as a download, and one gave it to me on a disk. So I had to load all of this data, and not only load it and check the projections on it, but also level the data out, because the fields were not matched across the board. And so, for instance, the landowner name had a different name for the column in each data set. And so I had to go through and merge those data sets and clean up all of that data in order to be able to run any analysis on it and give a report that made any sense. And so with Pivvot, this is, again, one of the most cool things about it is the ability to go in and run that report one time on that route. And then that gives you a preliminary line list, and you can look at the length of the pipe across an individual landowner's property, calculate the width of the permanent easement, multiply them together, and it gives you the value for the square footage that you'll have to buy from an individual landowner. So it's incredibly valuable when it comes to putting together a study.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're super excited to be able to add that piece of data to the platform. All right, so next question. Up to this point, we have primarily been talking about routing type projects. What I'd like to do now is just sort of shift the topic to non-routing projects. So I wonder if one of you all can talk about how Audubon is leveraging the platform to support these non-routing type projects. And Steve, if you wouldn't mind, maybe you could kick us off, and then Clarence, you can add some more detail afterwards.
Sure, Rich. One of the benefits that the tool provides when you're locating facilities is with the elevation profile of a specific area. And so if you're trying to site a compressor station or a pump station, ideally you would want to locate it in an area that requires the least amount of relocation of dirt, whether it's fill dirt or cut dirt. And we can use the tool to identify those areas where there might be less construction impact. But additionally, you can use the tool when locating these types of facilities when you're trying to get a facility in close proximity to existing electrical transmission lines to provide power supply for those facilities.
Yeah, Steve, the other thing that I like about this is that, say I've got a region of interest in southeastern New Mexico where it's a green field, so nothing's ever been built there before, but we've got, we know that there's data out there for that area. One of the really great things about what you get when you load a polygon into it is that it'll give you an elevation file or a DEM, digital elevation map, of the area. And you can use that to evaluate how much cut fill you're going to have, how you're going to build your roads, how much you're going to have to build up to be able to get a level profile in the field so that all of your equipment sits flat. It's fantastic for those types of efforts.
Wonderful, thanks. All right, guys, one more question. Has there been a project that you all have been involved in where a customer didn't leverage the Pivvot data and then they realized that they had either over or underestimated their costs?
Oh, absolutely. The episode that comes to mind quickly is I was in a meeting with my client in their office several months ago, and they had received approval for expense on a new pipeline build and had done their own estimate internally. And I asked them for the route during the meeting, and I said, you know, let's take a look at what you have as opposed to what I can generate from the tool. And in their estimate, they had estimated how much they're going to have to trench, which goes to depth to bedrock and the Surgo data or soils data. And they had run their own analysis and found that they had a pretty high number of feet of rock that they had rock saw through. When I ran the tool, I actually discovered that it was significantly less. And you know, for these operators, they put these bids in, and their estimate locks in that funding. And so this would have enabled them to actually dramatically reduce some of their funding and save some money on the project. So they did ask me going forward to do this on every new project that they do, either gathering or short transmission.
Steve and Clarence, you did it. Thanks for answering all the questions. We're going to hand this over back to Stacy.
Cool.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Liz, for your introduction earlier. We're grateful to all of you who have downloaded this webinar and are watching it on demand. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@pivvot.com anytime. We'd be happy to answer your questions about the Pivvot database or how we deliver it. We're super grateful to Clarence and Steve from Audubon for sharing their story of how they deliver value to their clients with our tools. And we're grateful to AWS for powering our system and for sharing their story today as well. We hope you have a wonderful day. Please reach out to us, and thank you very much.